So welcome to this Did You Know session. We're going to look at a great new feature allowing you to change the number of running users during a test execution. So I'm going to look at my multi-test, which is just here. And if you look at the configuration, these are the tests contained in my multi-test. And if I open one of these, you'll see in the configuration we have this option to change the number of users at runtime. Now this allows us the option to adjust the number of users for this particular test. Now, if this is not enabled, so if I go to this other test down here, as you can see here in our APJ test, what we're saying here is when this test is executing, this particular test will always stay at 50 and cannot be modified. All the other tests in this multi-test can be modified. So let's kick off this test and we'll show you in action. So the test will boot normally, and then when the test is running, we'll then have the option to adjust the number of running users. So let's pause this and we'll come back once the test is actually booted. The test is now running, and as you can see, we're up to 290 users, and that was the ramp up of the multi-test. Now, because it's a multi-test, obviously we can filter this by scenario and also by location. So if I were to look at this multi-test and just look at the EMEA users, you can see that EMEA is running at 90, as we saw in APJ. APG is running at 50. Now, the ability to change the number of running users is in the runtime control. So if I click on the runtime control and click on change number of users, if no filters are defined, this will affect the overall test. Now, you see the number here is 240. That's because that individual APJ test of 50 users cannot be modified. This will change all the other tests, not the APJ test. So if I change this to 300, what we can also do is then allow a ramp up how we get from where we are to 300. So if I change this to 2 minutes, and perhaps we want to do it in 3 steps, and we click apply. What we're now going to do is modify this test for all the tests that can be changed, and the individual test will be left alone. Now what you'll also see on the time bar at the top is there's a purple dot. Now that's there because I made a change to this test. And if I mouse over it, we'll get a summary of that change. And if I click on it, what this shows me is that we changed the value. It was 240, it's now 300. These are details from our ramp up. And these are the scenarios and locations that are affected by this change. So as you can see here, we're changing 3 scenarios. And these are the locations that will be affected. And over the next 2 minutes, what will happen is our test will move from what was 290 up to 350. So we'll just let the test run that. And as you can see, it's already started to ramp up because we're up to 292 now. And this test will now be adjusted based on that change. So we're at 310. If we look at the timeline report, we'll also see that we are now ramping up. So as you can see there, the users is 290. If I just unselect the other options here, so we just show the users, you can see that 290 was where we were running, and now we're ramping up this test based on those requirements we just changed. Now, if you actually apply a filter, when we do this change number of users, it can be done at an individual level. So if you imagine in our locations, we want to just affect the load that's coming from London. If I select that here, and we go back into the same runtime control, what you'll see the difference is we're only selecting one location, and we're going to affect just the users for that one location. And again, we have the same ramp up we can use. If I say I want to change London and Paris, and again, we go into the runtime control, you see we get the location, and again we get the value of those 2 locations of their current settings. So you can see it's very flexible in how we can modify the number of running users. Now if I unselect these 2, so we go back to all locations, and we select just an individual location like EMEA, like we saw with the locations, it only affects that one scenario. And again, we're adjusting that one scenario. So it allows you to adjust the number of running users by location and by scenario. This works with an individual test as well as a multi-test, and also we're showing it going up You can also go down, so you can adjust the value of running users up or down based on your requirements. And as you can see here, we are now working our way towards that target. So at the moment we're up to 112 users because we've selected one location, this one scenario. If I go to all scenarios, you can see now we're up to 350. So we've applied that change, and as before, you can see these changes with these purple dots. So as you can see, it's very easy now to adjust the number of running users during execution. So for more information, go to blazemeter.com, where you can see blogs and videos and also sign up for a free tier account.